spectacular sight ascending in the sky. This is a festival that's popular with tourists and dates back decades, and it's part of Lunar New Year celebrations on the Asian island of Taiwan. The Associated Press reports that this began more than 100 years ago when bandits would raid villages in Taiwan. The lanterns were released afterwards to signal to those who were in hiding when it was safe to come home. Today, hundreds of people write down what they hope for in the year ahead. It might include good health, global peace, personal prosperity. The paper they use is part of a lantern that then rises in the air, carrying their hopes into the night. And one businessman who attended and wants his company to grow says it's encouraging to see the sky lanterns taking off. Even as the rain came down on this year's event, participants felt it was an uplifting experience. Welcome to the world from A to Z. I'm Carl Azuz. Fridays are awesome. If you go on Apple Maps or Google Maps, you'll see a large body of water has had a significant name change. Here's an objective look at what that's about. Last month, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. This location has had Mexico in its name for several hundred years. Can a U.S. leader just change it? Yes, but only as far as the United States is concerned. The U.S. Board on Geographic Names is a federal office dating back to 1890 that has the authority to change names within the country. But the Gulf is surrounded by three countries, the U.S., Mexico, and Cuba, and other nations don't have to recognize the change. Mexico is one that said it'll continue to call the body of water the Gulf of Mexico. And while Google and Apple show U.S. users the Gulf of America, they show both names to users around the world. Why did President Trump do this? He says the Gulf plays a pivotal role in America's future and economy, and he wants to, quote, restore American pride. How did critics respond? They say there are more important issues to focus on and call the name change a distraction that could harm relations with Mexico. Is the U.S. alone in controversies like it? No. Britain and Argentina dispute the name of the Falkland Islands, or Islas Malvinas. An Asian body of water is known as the Sea of Japan in that country and the East Sea in South Korea.
Two sides of the same coin.
We need the penny. You see them lying on the sidewalk, people don't even pick them up.
A debate after President Donald Trump ordered the U.S. Treasury to stop minting new pennies, describing it as, quote, wasteful.
I've been advocating this for, about a decade and a half.
Economics professor Robert Waples points to the cost of production. According to the latest annual report from the U.S. Mint, it costs 3.7 cents to make a penny and 13.8 cents to make a nickel.
We taxpayers lose money every time that we, produce extra pennies. The problem is on us because when we get change, we don't bring it back to the store.
Instead, Waples proposes a system of rounding up to the nearest nickel.
If it's $2.01, it gets round to 2. If it's $1.99, it gets round to 2. And those two things basically cancel out in the thousands and thousands of transactions that occur.
But penny advocates like Mark Weller from Americans for Common Sense disagree.
There's billions of transactions that take place under $25, and those are mostly made in cash. And so you're going to have a rounding tax on the people that can least afford it.
Weller says phasing out the 1-cent coin could cost us a pretty penny.
The penny does cost a little bit more than its face value, but the nickel costs 14 cents right now. So how are you going to save money if you start making more nickels that are costing more money?
Some advocates propose making all coins more cost-effective, for example, looking into less expensive metals.
On this date in world history, February 14th was a fascinating day in photographic history. The daguerreotype was a new way of capturing images in the late 1840s when James K. Polk was U.S. president, and he was widely believed to be the first sitting American leader to be successfully captured on camera. He also might have been the first to have a mullet, though John Tyler might have something to say about that. On this date in 2005, former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik al-Hariri was assassinated in a car bombing in that nation's capital. More than 20 other people were killed in the attack. A judge later said there was no doubt it was a political act. Also on February 14, 2005, 3 young men who used to work for PayPal registered a new social media and video website. It was called YouTube, and it changed the way people shared, watched, and made videos.
Franklin Roosevelt holds the record with 4 presidential election wins. Now presidents are limited to 2 terms. For more election connections, visit periodicpresidents.com.
Word and knowledge. Who wrote the Parliament of Fowls, a 14th century poem about birds choosing their mates? Dante Alighieri, Christopher Marlowe, Pope Pius II, Geoffrey Chaucer. What might have been the first poem connecting Valentine's Day and love was written by English author Geoffrey Chaucer.
Cooking a meal together, volunteering together, making origami flowers, going for a hike and picnic in a state park. Experts say there are many inexpensive ways to celebrate Valentine's Day. Still, the National Retail Federation expected Americans to spend a record $27.5 billion this year. The most popular gift is candy, with flowers being second.
Americans are expected to drop a nice chunk of change showing their love this Valentine's Day. Stuffed animals, boxes of chocolates, cards, lots of gifts. Among them, the iconic red rose. More than 25 million grown for this holiday. After all, it's the Valentine's Day flower, largely because of its meaning.
It symbolizes love and romance, usually exchanged between 2 people who love each other romantically.
What is sometimes referred to as the language of flowers was popular during the Victorian era. In some European and Asian countries, flowers were used as a subtle and quiet way to communicate a variety of feelings. For example, if you were attracted to someone, you'd give them a single red rose. And if your crush didn't feel the same way, they'd send back a yellow carnation. Yikes. Even how a blossom was handed to a person could mean something. Given with the right hand, it meant yes, while the left meant no. Today, using flowers to communicate secret messages is a tad dated, but the act of gifting flowers to a loved one on any occasion, be it graduations, birthdays, or Valentine's Day, is timeless.
Announcing a couple extra schools now because it's Valentine's and we love y'all. We'll start with Miss Hettinger's class at the Christian Academy in Japan. Great to see you in the Japanese capital, Tokyo. We're making a stop in Panama City, Florida to check in with the Bobcats in Mrs. Gilbert's class. Bay Haven Charter is awesome, like Fridays. We've got the students and teachers of Wilson Middle School. Hello to everyone in Wyandotte, Michigan, where the Warriors roam. And they ain't the only ones. We're shouting out the Warriors of Brainerd High School in Brainerd, Minnesota, where Miss Ladin's or Ladin's class is watching. And we'll wrap things up in Texas with the Chargers of Champion High School. Mr. Reichling's class is in Boerne. A little over a year ago, a retired police investigator in upstate New York bought drones whose cameras can detect heat. He knew there'd be a use for them, and it led to a business when people started calling for help and finding animals lost in the woods. Case in point, a puppy that had been missing for more than a day recently in the New York snow. Thermal imaging helped the operator locate the dog, and then he told rescuers where to pick it up on the ground. So there's no need to see red or feel blue because a dog got yellow and ran off into the white. Just look for a helper who can fire up some thermographic drones, turn up the heat on a search, use some heat signature skills over a vast radiate to light up the dog's location, and let the reunion warm your heart. After all, this is the day for puppy love. I'm Carl Azuz, wishing you a wonderful weekend. We will be off the air for the President's Day holiday, so please join us again right here next Tuesday. This is The World from A to Z, and you mean the world to me.